Greetings, this is Amy Wentley with Chai Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2020-12, and this is how to join to work in the round. So there are two other videos that I did before this, 2020-10 and 2020-11, that talked about setting up a cast on for knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. And it involved doing a combination of long tail cast on and reverse long tail cast on, or a combination of long tail cast on and German twisted cast on to set up a knit 2 purl 2 cast on for ribbing. Okay. What I have on my needle here is from the first video, and it alternates long tail cast on with reverse long tail cast on. And I used two different color yarns to do this to illustrate, the different pattern, the knit 2 purl 2 that we were setting up, just so you could see it a little better. So this is in gray and green. The first two stitches here are my slip knot, my original slip knot. There's a green and a gray. And those count as knit stitches. And these are my tails. Normally you would have one tail with your slip knot. I have two because I use the two different colors. So these are my two knit stitches, purl, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl, all the way down that I cast on. And this again was using the long tail cast on and the reverse long tail cast on. And I have a total of 52 stitches on my needle here. That's divisible by 4. In order to set up a knit 2 purl 2 ribbing, you have to have your cast on be divisible by 4. So I start with knit 2 and I end with purl 2 over here. Okay, now I want to work a hat and I need to join this to work in the round. What I do is I just go ahead and I start working the next stitch. I don't do anything fancy at all. So this is my working yarn here. This is what I was left over with. I cut the end of the gray ball over here. So I do have an extra tail here, and it's because I use the two colors to cast on. If you use one color to cast on, which you should for your hat, please, you will not have this extra tail here. Okay, but this is my working yarn now. This is what I'm going to want to do the rest of my hat in. And it is going to be on my right hand side, and this needle with the working yarn on it is going to be in my right hand. I want to take the other end of the needle, and I'm going to want to join these to work in the round. One thing you have to be really careful of is that this spine at the bottom is not twisted. If you twist the stitches, if it looks something like this and your stitches are twisted, you will not end up with hat. You'll end up with some weird conglomeration of stitches, I think. So you need to make sure they're not twisted. So what you want to do is look very carefully, hold up your work, make sure that the spine is running all along the bottom. If you have hundreds of stitches, which you sometimes do, I think this hat probably has you cast on maybe about 180 stitches. So that's a lot of stitches. And sometimes it's hard to see the twist or control the twist when you have that many stitches on your needle. So I have a trick for that, but I'm just going to show you basically how to do this after you cast on, and I'll show you another trick in a minute. So what you're going to do is you have your working yarn in your right hand, your needle with the working yarn in your right hand, and the other in your other hand. And you want to make sure that your stitches aren't twisted. We check that. And you're going to bring this around into a circle, and always checking to make sure your stitches aren't twisting. And you're going to put your right hand needle in the first stitch, first slip stitch you had there. And you're going to want to make sure your yarn is in the back, your working yarn is in the back. Make sure, again, look at your spine, make sure all your stitches are straight and they're not twisting. You're going to insert your needle into the first stitch, and you are going to knit that stitch. And you are going to knit the second stitch, because this is a knit 2 purl 2 ribbing. And that's all you do, is you go ahead and knit those first two stitches. You might want to tug the yarn a little bit You are going to have a little gap between the last stitch and the first stitch. And it's probably going to even get a little bigger as you go around. When you go to do that second round, you'll tighten things up there. So don't worry if the stitches between the last stitch and the first stitch are a little bit loose. So you knit 2, and then you'll want to do purl 2. And you'll do knit 2, purl 2 all the way around. And you've already got your cast on set up, so you can easily see which are knit 2 and which are purl 2. Okay, now what I'm going to do for right now is I want to show you a trick. If you have a whole lot of stitches and you're having trouble getting your spine to not be twisted, I've got a neat trick to show you. What I'm going to have to do is pause the video for just a little bit, and then I'm going to be back. What you want to do is you're going to go ahead and work the stitches flat. And so I will show you how to do that first, and then we'll pause the video. Sorry for a little bit of indecisiveness there. What you want to do is, if you're worried about having too many stitches and you just can't seem to figure out how to not get the stitches to twist or whatever, I'm undoing this knitting here so I can show you this trick. So what you're going to want to do is, after you cast on, you want to work 1 row flat before you join. And the reason that you want to do that is so that you can have more stitches on your needle, and it's easier actually to control them to keep the stitches from twisting if you have if you've got a row of knitting done. So this was where I was before. What I'm going to do now is, instead of joining to work in the round, I ended here with my cast on. Okay, I'm just going to turn my work, and I'm going to work a row of knitting flat without joining. So here's my working yarn. Okay, here's my working yarn, and I'm not attaching it in the round. I'm just going to go ahead and work a flat row. So I'm going to pause, and I'm going to work that flat row for you, and I'll come back to you in a second. Hi, I'm back. Okay, so what I did is, after I finished the cast on row, I turned my work and I worked a whole row of the knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 ribbing all the way across without joining. Okay, so I finished a first row of knitting, and so I knit all the way across here, and here's my working yarn. Now what this did is it built up a row of knitting on here. And so, as you can see, it's a whole lot easier for me to see whether my work is twisted or not, because I've got more to work with. All I need to do now is, again, I hold my working yarn in my right hand and the needle in my right hand and the other needle in my left hand, and I look at my stitches, and they are not twisted right now, very obviously. I'm going to bring them around in a circle again, and now I'm going to do the same thing I would have done before. I'm going to go ahead and get my yarn in the back. Sorry, hit the camera again. Got to do something about that. Okay, and I'm going to knit the first stitch, knit the second stitch, and it's very easy for me to see after I knit those first 2 stitches. I tug them a little bit, and it's easy for me to see that my stitches aren't twisted. Now what happens is, you do have a little bit of a gap between where the knitting joins up, because you have that extra row. So see how you have a little gap here? What you're going to do is, when you finish the piece, you're going to take one of your ends and just, with a darning needle, just connect those together, and you will never see that there was a gap there. you'll be able to handle that with weaving in your end at the end. So that just makes joining a little bit easier. So that's it for this video, and please continue to follow my videos. Thank you for being here today, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.